Do you support a reporter's shield law, and why or why not?
Over the last 4 years, I've been probably the most outspoken opponent of the reporter shield law, and Jean is somewhere in the audience. I saw her a minute ago. Couple things here. When other industries have asked for shield laws, giving them privileges and immunities from the courts, the media, rightfully, is the very first group of people to cry foul. But then the media came and asked for the same thing. The granting of privileges and immunities in Missouri's court system is a precious, precious thing. Over 150 years, we have only given out 5 privileges and immunities in Missouri's court system. If I can name them, I'll be lucky. It's the attorney-client privilege, the priest-penitent privilege, doctor-patient, husband-wife, and the privilege against self-incrimination. Those are all privileges that are granted because we believe that certain relationships are more important than a court's search for the truth. And we may have a disagreement of opinion on this, but I do not believe that the relationship between a reporter and a source is more important than a court's search for the truth. If President Bill Clinton has to stand up and talk about his sex life in front of the entire world, then it is a statement that the courts supersede all individual secrets, and that you come forward and speak honestly and openly when a judge asks you to do that. Reporters should do the same.
I do support that legislation. We've not had an opportunity in the Senate to actually get that to a vote. Last year, Representative Tim Jones was the sponsor of a House bill, which I was very willing to move into a committee that would at least be favorable to it, to get it to the floor. That's where it fizzled out. As I understand, in the efforts that have been made to erect this type of privilege, it is not an absolute privilege. It can be not necessarily waived, but you can seek a hearing, go before the court, make your arguments in the event that there is some compelling reason to disclose that source, and make sure that that's public when there's some type of common good that needs to be directed. So I think that's the safeguard. Having that as a basic privilege, I think makes sense in a society that is critical to have information brought forward to the public so they can know what's going on, make their decisions, and do the right thing. There are going to be circumstances where that shield, if you will, needs to be lowered, and I think having a court, a judge, sit down, analyze the evidence, hear the arguments, and make a decision is a way to protect both the confidences and the public good.
Thank you. The second question comes from Sarah Palmer and will be directed first to Senator Gibbons.
As Attorney General, Jay Nixon has been an ardent supporter of Missouri's Sunshine Law. His website includes resources for interpreting and using the law. How important is the Sunshine Law to you, and what steps would you take to aggressively enforce it?
It's absolutely critical. It is impossible for an informed electorate, an informed citizenry, to understand what's going on with the government they elect and the government that they pay for if they can't see what the public documents are and the records that are available. I think that the Sunshine Law needs to be enforced, and it needs to be enforced aggressively, and I think it's about time for the Attorney General to get involved, not just in a high-profile battle between Attorney General and Governor as political rivals, but on the local level where there are instances of public bodies intentionally or willfully defeating the public's right to know by meeting either in private, not understanding the exemptions that do exist, which are very limited, and I think that needs to be enforced. I also think what needs to happen, too, is that in today's electronic age, where we're producing documents and filing them electronically, I don't understand why we can't take documents that everybody understands are public from the beginning, code it appropriately, put it out on a website, and let anybody take a look at it. What is so special about that? I mean, let's, like the Government Accountability Portal, make that available, a public records portal for people. If it's confidential, includes health information, confidential attorney-client, then code it and file that in a way where it can be set aside, still able to be discovered if necessary, but at least it would be open, and I think make it more accessible and government more available to people.
Chapter 610 of Missouri Statute statutes, which is the Sunshine Law, is actually a well-written document and does a pretty good job of maintaining openness throughout government. We do still have a problem in Chapter 109, which is the penalty for record retention. And there is no real penalty for failure to retain records or no penalty for destroying records. That needs to change legislatively. There should be a penalty for destruction of records. And there should be some kind of a safeguard, whether it be in the hands of the Attorney General or in the hands of the State Auditor or in some future Solicitor General to go in and prevent records from being destroyed that are in danger of being destroyed. Right now, the Attorney General has a staff person that does go around the state of Missouri and provides educational resources to local boards and committees that are under the Missouri Sunshine Law to make sure that folks in the communities across the state are well informed and know how to handle these types of situations. But we don't do enough of that. And so we should increase the level of education that is occurring in the 114 communities around the state. We also need to continue all the investigations that are presently underway so that when we transition from this Attorney General's office over to the next, that existing open records investigations will carry on.
Thank you, Senator Koster. I'm going to exercise some discretion as a moderator here and ask a follow-up question on this topic. You both alluded to the ongoing battle between the Attorney General's office and the Governor's office over access to emails. And what I'd like to know is, one, do you consider that a political fight? If it's still pending when you take office, would you continue with that investigation, or would you bring it to a close under the assumption that there's two different people in the two offices? Senator Koster, that would go to you first.
Now, as I said in my remarks, there have been too many fights between the Governor's office and the Attorney General's office over the last 4 years. And no matter which of us is successful and whoever is successful in the next gubernatorial race, I hope that, and I say this as a fellow member of the Senate, I hope that that era is over, and I will pledge to work in that direction. But the investigation will continue. I don't know what conclusion it comes to, but it should be brought to an appropriate and prudent conclusion as quickly as possible.
Senator Gibbons.
The first thing, if elected, I think that litigation, as well as every litigation in the office, needs to be thoroughly examined and a determination made on what to go forward. First and foremost, if there are public records that are not available, they need to be, and that needs to happen. I think sitting down with the Special Assistant Attorney Generals and understand where they are with this case, is an important part of that research. And making sure that we focus on the issue, because I think to some extent the issue here is who pays for it, who pays for these documents. And and I think that has to be examined, because that's a major issue here. Is it going to cost $20,000 or $100,000? There have been some exorbitant figures. Is that really accurate? What's going on there? It's one of the reasons why going forward I want to have a government records portal that for anything that's clear, that we're filing documents in a way that anybody can see them, that they're coded in such a way that it's easy. I don't understand why it should cost anything in an electronic age, at least going forward. Old records may be different, but going forward, why they can't be produced at virtually no cost. But that action is not going to stop because I become Attorney General. It will be continued if the merits and the law and the facts warrant its continuation.